Hi, I'm Lissy. This is my daughter, Madison. She's 15 months old and was diagnosed with infantile spasms in May of 2018, treated with ACTH. May 3rd, I got to daycare and her teacher sat me down saying that Madison was doing some sort of weird movement and it was concerning. She said she was on the changing table and almost made a movement like she was falling and did it consecutively a few times in a row. And she was the first one who had actually said seizure. That evening, I watched her all night until I fell asleep on the monitor and didn't see anything. And then the next day I had her home with me and I saw her do something that looked like what the teacher was describing. I immediately started videotaping it and brought it to the pediatrician who was on call. She didn't seem overly concerned and said that it could be something called startle reflux, and said if it keeps going on for the next month to get in touch with neurology. Later that day, the movements became more distinct, were happening in more clusters, and were just very obvious that something was wrong. And I decided that we just weren't gonna wait. My mama gut kicked in and said that we had to take her to CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So she started to have the spasms a little bit more that day. They would last anywhere, they would be every few seconds and would last anywhere between 1 minute and 5 minutes. I did video all of them just because I was very concerned. Because of that afternoon and evening, you could tell that her discomfort was also getting worse. You can see in the videos that she is continuing to cry even more and just appeared to be really uncomfortable. So the next day, my husband and I took her to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and while we were in their emergency department, she actually started to spasm again. They were very concerned and immediately admitted us for her to have an overnight EEG. The next morning, it was confirmed that she did have infantile spasms with hypsarrhythmia. Hypsarrhythmia is a disorganized, chaotic pattern of brain waves that occurs in children with infantile spasms and not in other seizure disorders. Spasms are clusters of sudden, repeated, uncontrolled movements, like a head bob or a body crunching. Madison's looked like she was catching herself falling or waking up from falling asleep. Her arms and sometimes her legs would stiffen and her eyes would bulge out. We spent the following 6 days at CHOP for additional testing and to start treatment. Monday, she had a brain MRI and spinal tap in order to determine a cause. It's important to know that up to this point, Madison was developing normally and on track and had no previous conditions. Both of the tests and all tests since have been negative, meaning we will never know what caused her infantile spasms. This type of diagnosis is considered cryptogenic. They want to run these tests so that they know what treatment will work best for your child. It was decided that an aggressive treatment of ACTH was going to be our plan of action. ACTH is a hormone that is naturally produced by our bodies. It is unclear just how ACTH works to stop seizures, but it is the first-line treatment for infantile spasms. In the following days, my husband and I would receive education on how to administer her shots at home, or that we would give to her over the following month. Madison's amazing pediatrician actually came to visit us in the hospital and provided much needed support for us throughout the process. For her treatment, we gave her a high dose of the injections for 2 weeks and then began weaning over a 2-week period. For parents whose children are on ACTH, it's good to know that they're not going to be themselves. Outside of the obvious physical changes, you can see pictures of Madison before and after, where Madison gained about 3 pounds. Her personality changed a lot. She rarely smiled. She was constantly hungry, or hangry as we said, and just seemed miserable. At the time, I was still breastfeeding her, so every 90 minutes to 2 hours throughout the day and night, she was hungry. I would highly recommend that parents join a support group or therapy group during this time. It's very difficult to watch your child go through this, and it was very helpful to join the online community. I was able to share her story, learn about others, ask questions, and vent. I'm involved in various mom support groups, and when I shared Madison's diagnosis, I realized that it's something that many new parents and pediatricians are not aware of. It's a much more serious seizure disorder than the general convulsion. Not only is it difficult for a parent to realize that it's a seizure disorder, it also is challenging for pediatricians. Infantile spasms are so uncommon that most pediatricians will see only 1 or 2 infantile spasms cases during their career. I had also noticed once I joined the infantile spasms support groups that IS is often misdiagnosed as normal startle reflux, colic, or reflux. It is very important to recognize that a child has IS as soon as it begins, as you can start treatment. The longer the spasms last before they are treated and controlled, the poorer the child may do developmentally. Only about 1,200 children a year in the US are diagnosed with IS, but I truly believe that there are many cases that go undiagnosed due to lack of awareness. If we had taken the advice of the pediatrician we had seen, then there's a possibility that Madison would have had developmental delays the rest of her life. My hope is that people will share this information with new parents, daycare workers, and pediatricians so that awareness spreads for this rare condition. Infantile Spasms Action Network introduced the Stop Infantile Spasms mnemonic. I would tell any parent to follow this. If they have any concerns, I would tell parents to video the movements and immediately show your pediatrician. Do not wait to get an appointment with neurology. Immediately go to your local children's hospital, mention IS, show them your videos, and request an EEG. Best case, you are told it is not IS. Worst case, you are right and can immediately begin treatment. Madison has been spasm-free since mid-May of 2018, about 2 weeks into treatment. She has had 2 clear EEGs that showed no hypsarrhythmia. She has since developed on track and is thriving. We go back to CHOP every 6 months for the next several years for follow-ups, as relapse is always a possibility. It's possible that the spasms can reappear or that they can develop into epilepsy as she gets older. We are hopeful that we caught it early enough thanks to her teachers, and have seen many cases where children have been spasm and epilepsy free for the rest of their lives.